In 1977, in the quiet suburb of Enfield, London, an ordinary council house became the center of one of the most famous hauntings in history. What began as small, strange noises soon grew into a nightmare that terrified a family, shocked investigators, and captured the attention of the entire world. The Hodgson family lived in a modest home at 284 Green Street. Peggy Hodgson, a single mother, was raising her 4 children, Margaret, Janet, Johnny, and Billy. Life was already difficult. Money was tight, and Peggy worked hard just to make ends meet. But one summer night in August, everything changed. 11-year-old Janet and her sister Margaret began hearing strange knocking sounds on the walls of their bedroom. At first, they thought it was just a prank, maybe the pipes, or their younger brothers playing tricks. But the knocks kept coming, and soon the furniture started to move. Drawers slid across the floor, chairs tipped over by themselves, and toys were thrown across the room as if an invisible hand had picked them up. Peggy, their mother, didn't believe it at first. She thought the children were imagining things. But late one night, she saw it with her own eyes. A heavy chest of drawers moved forward across the room, slowly but with force, as if someone was pushing it. Peggy tried to push it back against the wall, but something wouldn't let her. It felt like an unseen power was holding it in place. That was the moment she realized something truly unnatural was happening in her home. Word spread quickly around the neighborhood. Neighbors came to see what was happening, and many of them witnessed objects moving on their own. The situation became so disturbing that Peggy called the police. 2 officers arrived at the house to investigate. At first, they thought it was just another call. But then, one of the officers saw a chair slide across the room, with no one touching it. She later signed a written statement describing what she had witnessed. Even the police couldn't explain it. Soon, the press got involved. The Daily Mirror, one of Britain's biggest newspapers, sent reporters and photographers to cover the strange events. They expected a silly story, something they could laugh about later. But what they captured shocked them. Photographs showed Janet being thrown from her bed, objects levitating, and toys flying across the room. The haunting had become undeniable. The case soon attracted the attention of the Society for Psychical Research. 2 men, Maurice Grosse and Guy Lyon Playfair, spent more than a year studying the house. They installed recording devices. They watched as objects flew through the air. They documented furniture moving without explanation. And most chilling of all, they recorded Janet speaking in a deep, gravelly voice. A voice that claimed to belong to a man named Bill Wilkins. Through Janet, the voice told a terrifying story. It claimed to be the spirit of Bill Wilkins, a man who had once lived in that very house. The voice said he had died there, sitting in a chair in the living room. Later research showed that a man named Bill Wilkins really had died in that house years before. The voice recordings shocked everyone who heard them. Janet was only 11 years old, yet the voice that came from her sounded nothing like a child. Doctors and experts who studied the recordings admitted that it was highly unusual and could not be explained by normal vocal abilities. The haunting only grew worse. Janet was often thrown from her bed by unseen hands. Witnesses claimed they saw her levitate in midair, sometimes in front of multiple people at once. She was dragged across the floor, pinned against walls, and terrified night after night. Objects were thrown with violent force. Cold spots appeared throughout the house, and the knocking sounds never stopped. The Hodgson family lived in fear, unsure if they were dealing with a restless ghost or something much darker. Of course, not everyone believed the story. Some skeptics argued that the children were faking it for attention. They pointed out moments where the girls admitted to exaggerating or playing tricks. But even the skeptics couldn't explain everything. Too many witnesses had seen events with their own eyes: police officers, reporters, neighbors, and investigators. There was simply too much evidence to dismiss. Guy Lyon Playfair, one of the investigators, later said, "Of course there were some tricks. They were kids. But you can't fake an entire 18-month haunting." For over a year and a half, the Hodgsons endured the strange events. Paranormal activity would rise and fall, but it never fully stopped. Some nights were quiet, and others were terrifying. Janet, in particular, suffered the most. She would often go into trances. She said she felt controlled by something outside of herself, as if her body wasn't her own. At one point, she was even admitted to a hospital for evaluation. Doctors could not find any medical explanation for her condition. The Enfield haunting became one of the most documented paranormal cases in modern history. Hundreds of hours of audio recordings, dozens of photographs, and countless eyewitness testimonies still survive today. The case has been studied in books, television documentaries, and even inspired the Hollywood movie The Conjuring 2. Yet after all these years, the mystery remains. Was it truly the spirit of Bill Wilkins? Or was something far darker haunting that small house in Enfield? The truth may never be known. What we do know is that dozens of people, from police officers to journalists, walked into that house and left believing something unexplainable had happened. The Hodgson family eventually moved on with their lives. But Janet, even as an adult, admitted that the haunting never truly left her. The Enfield Poltergeist remains one of the most chilling and controversial hauntings in history. A case filled with fear, doubt, and unanswered questions. Sometimes, the scariest part of a haunting is not what you see, but what you hear in the silence after the lights go out.